Hello again YouTube, Mad Dog here, welcome back to my channel. So it's Fire It Up Friday, and on today's little video I'm going to be throwing in some bow drill practice. Stay tuned. Welcome back. So just before we get started, a couple of quick little tips or tricks that work for me. Give it a go, see what you guys and lasses think. Firstly, the little pan or ember catcher, whatever you want to call it, your thin off cut of wood that you're going to place under your hearth board to catch the coals and hopefully the ember. What I like to do is, if I've got it to hand, put a piece of charred material, char cloth, charred fungus, anything that you've got to hand on top of that pan, so that any embers or coal that you do catch, you're already extending that coal straight away by igniting your charred material, which obviously will grow into a bigger coal, and when you add that to your tinder, gives you a better chance of blowing it to flame more successfully. That'd be tip number one. Tip number two would be, most people say when you're constructing a bow drill set that your hearth board that you're going to drill into and your spindle or drill should be made of the same wood. Well, whilst yes, that does work, I personally find it easier and more effective to have the hearth board made of a softer material and the drill to be made of a harder material, because for me the clue is in the title. It's a bow drill. We are trying to achieve an ember by drilling into the hearth board, creating dust. So you're removing material from the hearth board via the drill. That dust will then ignite by adding more friction and more speed, creating the ember. So for me it works to have a softer material hearth board if I can, and a harder spindle. That will be my tip number two. Pretty much a common sense thing really, but tip number three would be to have your bird's nest, your tinder, ready prior to establishing your ember, and your kindling, your smalls for your fire, so that once you've established a flame by blowing your coal to flame, you're not in a panic mode to search around for your kindling to maintain that fire. So tip number three, do your prep work, have your tinder and your kindling prepared ready. Tip number four would be your hand socket or your bearing block. Make it the size of your palm, whereby it fits comfortably but it's not too big and cumbersome, but not too small and fiddly where you're going to lose it. Secondly, inside of that hand socket, this in this case is a piece of fat wood, makes an ideal bearing block. For lubrication you can add leaves. In this case this is some plantain leaf that I've added in there. If you have it to hand, some Vaseline, petroleum jelly, Lipsolve, any of those types of lubricants, gun oil, whatever you may have on your person. Another little tip, slugs and snails. As daft as it sounds, they're slimy horrible creatures, but their body secretes that fluid and makes an ideal lubricant. Get them in your bearing block for an effective lubricant to reduce the friction at your hand socket end. Alrighty, so tip or trick number five, your spindle. Once you've initially burnt your set in, then once you've cut your V-notch and you're happy with your board and your set, take your spindle out, and by which time the end will have completely domed over and gone black, and cut it back into a flat anvil head, shouldering it slightly. And also you know, we use as knives. Don't forget, if there's rocks, sandstone, anything like that kicking around, don't forget to use it. Utilise what's around you. Use it as a sandstone to get a nice flat even edge, but leave the shoulders nice and sharp will be my advice. That way it will bite into that divot nicely, create more dust more quickly, which means you have to put less effort in ultimately. So that will be another little tip. And another point on the spindle is if you're getting a lot of squealing, high pitched squealing, and a lot of heat at your socket end, your bearing block end, then that's a sign of the end shouldering out inside of your bearing block. And from my experience, that is one of the most common failure points in any bow drill set. So go ahead, if that happens, and put a steeper angle on your bearing block end. You want all the friction obviously to be at the anvil, the drill end, and not at the hand drill end. So you want that looking like an old used pencil, if that makes sense. Slightly rounded, tapered but not shouldered, and the larger fatter end flat with some nice rough shouldering to bite into the divot in your hearthboard. Top little tip, and that you'll see with practice and experience is very true, and makes it much more effective and efficient. If you get this end right, this will follow. Alrighty, let's give this a shot. That line feels a bit slack, to be fair, but we'll see what happens. Key. Do we have an ember? It's looking hopeful. Oh yeah. Oh. Crikey, my arm unfit. Yeah. Oh dear. That was a fail. But I'll leave it in there anyway because it happens. So I'll just give that a minute to do its thing and establish. There we go. Nice red cherry there now. And the char cloth has taken as well. So we can now add that with relative confidence into our bird's nest. Always bring the bird's nest to the ember, never the ember to the bird's nest. And see if we can't blow it to flame. And there she is. Yeah. Haha. So, always good to practice your skills. Like I say, I've not done a bow drill fire for quite some time, and it ain't always as easy as what you think. As you can see, I made a few mistakes there, but I'm going to leave it in. You know, I'll show you the fails as well as the wins. It's the nature of the game with this bushcraft survival thing. It's a matter of perseverance and sticking with it. Get yourself a fat wood bearing block and keep it in your kit. That'd be another little tip or piece of advice from me. I've had this one many years, used it many times, and although it's getting some cracks and signs of wear and age now, still serves me well. Anyway, as you can see, we get the job done. Happy days. Happy Fat Wood Friday, Fire It Up Friday, guys and lasses. Oh, it's true. Hope you find some of this useful, if not entertaining. Crikey me, look at the sweat on me. Have a great weekend, and until next time, which won't be long, Mad Dog signing off. Yeah.